welcome back to Lifestyle Chapter. If today is your first time visiting this channel, I welcome you to the family. If you're already here, I always happy to have you back. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do well to subscribe. Today I have another sumptuous recipe that I'm going to share with you. That is the waakye, the tastiest waakye recipe. I already made the waakye in my previous video, and this is the stew that goes with it, and these are the ingredients. I have my meat, assorted meat. That's the goat meat, the cow tripe, and then the cow skin. I have my fish, onions, tomatoes, habaneros, fresh rosemary, eggs, and some spices. So let's get started. I have my onions. I'm going to do the marinade for make sure to slice the ginger into pieces for the blender to be able to blend it quickly and smoothly. I'll then include my habanero peppers to give it that spiciness. As well as giving it more flavors, so I'm adding my curry powder, my black pepper, some anise, all pepper seasoning, my cardamom powder or ground cardimon, some dry rosemary, these are all the flavors that the meat is going to incorporate, and this is going to make the stew more delicious. I also added some fresh rosemary as well, and to that I added some salt to taste, to help the blending become smooth, and also to help it marinate well into the meat. And I'm adding some water as well. So the blending is going on right now. I have my pot ready where I'm going to transfer all the meat for the stew into it. I'm going to actually cook the meat for it to be tender. I don't want my meat to be tough for you to have issues chewing it. So I'm going to cook it. I have my marinade ready. That is what I'm pouring on the meat right now. And for the meat, I have fish as well, so I'll put some of the marinade on the fish and then marinate it and set it in the refrigerator, so when the time comes for me to fry, it will be easier for me. So I decided to give a portion of the marinade to the fish as well. Now I have some water into my blender. I don't want anything to go wet, so I rinsed the blender to put the rest of the marinade, everything into it. Working on my ingredients for the stew. So I have the tomatoes that I'm going to cut. I'll put everything into the blender. Into that, I'll add another habanero pepper and one onion to it. I'm going to blend this without adding any water because I believe I already have water blended just like that. I have to check on the meat to see how far it's going, if it's getting tender. I'll stir and then check to see if everything is okay, as well as the taste. I'll leave it on to cook for another 5 minutes and then check on it again. So you're back to it and it looks like it is all done. The meat is tender. Everything is looking good. So I'll start working on the stew. I have my pot on fire and I'm drizzling some olive oil into it. I'll let it heat and then I'll put in my sliced onions. I'll give it a stir for about 2 minutes. I'll add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of tomato paste to it. I'll give it a nice stir for it to cook. So what I'll do next is to add in my blended tomatoes. And then give it a nice stir. It's on to cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. So coming back to check how it is going. It looks like the stew is almost done. And I have lowered my fire from medium to low because of the splattering. I don't want too much. I'll add the steamed meat that I cooked before I started the stew. I'm putting all the meat straight up into the stew. Sometimes you can take some of the meat in and then fry some, but this time I decided to put all the meat in straight without frying any. But with this stew, you can still fry some of your meat if you want. So This is how it is going, or this is how it's looking. I didn't fry any of the meat. I just put everything, and also all the stock of the meat, everything into the stew, which means all the flavors are incorporated in the stew. That is what it's going to do, and the aroma is just so great. I wish you were here to smell this. I have my pan ready on fire with some olive oil. I'm going to allow the oil to heat up, and I'll start frying my fish, which I'll be adding to the stew. One thing about Waakye stew is something that you can use any kind of meat to prepare, because Waakye itself is a street food that you can find in any corner on the street in Ghana. It is the most popular food that you ever see in Ghana. So Waakye, it has a lot of accompaniment. As I said before, you can use all kinds of meat. You can even use chicken, goat meat, anything that you want to use to make the stew. It is okay. That are done upside down for the other side to be fried. And after the color turning into golden brown, and I want my fish fried crispy, especially when I'm making Waakye stew, because I just love that feeling when chewing the fish. So what I'm going to do now is to add the fish to the stew. So I'll stir everything up. Now the pot is full of meat, so you have to be careful to make sure all the juices of the fish, all the flavors and everything in there is incorporated well. And remember, when having Waakye, there's no way you go wrong without you having your eggs. So I had these boiled eggs that I'm adding to the stew. Like I said before, you can choose to keep some of these meats on the side instead of you putting them in the stew, but this time I made sure I put all the meat for the Waakye stew in there. I don't want to put anything on the side, so I have my eggs in as well. This is just so great. The aroma here, it's so much. For Waakye, we have other side dishes that comes with it. We have the talia, that's the spaghetti, the gari, and I have some of the stew in a bowl that I'm going to mix it up with the talia. That is how we call it in Ghana, talia, which is the spaghetti. So I'm going to mix some of the stew with the spaghetti. As you can see, I'm pouring it into another bowl from the colander. It is so easy to make. And then I'll add some stew on it. Here I'm going to use 2 forks to help it blend everything well, the stew and the spaghetti really well, because I want the color to be one. I don't want part of it to be white while the other part is stewy. I want gari is a dry cassava and it's mostly dry, so I'm adding some water, warm water to it so it becomes a little bit fluffy, because I'm going to add some of the stew to it. I don't want the gari to be too dry. That way if I add the stew it wouldn't come out well. I want the fluffiness of it. And you know, when you add some little bit of water to gari, it rises. So that is why I'm adding some water to it to get the fluffiness. And then I will add my stew to it, which I'm going to stir everything up together to get that color of it as well. So our gari is all done. This is how it's looking. That is the other side dish. So lovelies, that is our waakye. I did the waakye itself in my previous video. I will link up that to this channel, to this video, so you can have a look at how that was done. And I'm serving myself right now. So that is the talia that I've put on the waakye. And for waakye you can add so many things, anything that you want to it. I have some lettuce with some bell peppers, tomatoes, onions. That is my salad that I made for the waakye. And that is the gari that I showed you how to mix it up. You can never go wrong with having your spicy fried plantain when you have your waakye. I always want to have my spicy fried plantain when I have waakye. And that's a waakye stew with all the meats you can find. I have my eggs, I have my cow skin, I have my goat meat in there, all of it in there. So that is the waakye stew I just made for you to see. And also that is the black pepper sauce that we call shito. The shito, it's how our waakye stew came up. Thank you guys for watching.